Welcome back, Egyptology lovers. Today we're going to do a video about hieroglyphs from a particular movie. This is from the movie Stargate, which was aired in 1994. And the main actor, James Spader, was actually called Daniel Jackson. He translated or corrected the translation of the hieroglyphs in the movie itself, which finally gave people an idea of what this particular ring that was discovered in Egypt was. It's one of those movies that was rare in a sense that the hieroglyphs were real. They were properly translated. There was real hieroglyphs, not fantasy hieroglyphs that didn't make any sense. They were real good hieroglyphs, so we had sentences and words to go with the movie itself. Of course, they hired an Egyptologist to do this, which was a very good touch that they made in the movie. All right, so let's see what was written. In the movie, the correction or the word was, what was written for the 3 lines was millions of years in the sky, or millions of years in this sky, Ra in the sun disk, in or by his sealed and his burial, for all time to eternity. His gate of the stars. So that's the translation. But I'm going to go a little more in detail for you so you know what the details of all the characters are. So if you love the movie, here we go. I loved it enough, so I bothered to divide the text. I found this online. I just corrected a little bit. There's a lot of nice detailed translations online. Some of them make some mistakes, but most of them are good. So here we go. So this is the first word. It means years. I put this over here so you understand how to read it properly. Years. This is the word renepet. Renepet. Now this over here, which is a branch with a little notch on the end, this is the word renepet. These 3 are complements. So the mouth, the wave of water, and the stool is R and P. So renep tells you how to read this, and the T as well, which combines them together, which makes renepet. Now there's 3 strokes here, which is U, which makes it reneput. T is always feminine in any word. So you have it right here, reneput, and this means years. If you didn't have the 3 strokes, it'd be year, singular. Now this is an unusual one I found in the movie, but it was done anyways. So here, this is the word hiffen. It's a tadpole. Tadpole means 100,000. That's the number, 100,000. And this here, which has no sound, is just a number. It's 10. It probably did have a sound, but it's mostly considered just a number. So 10. So I'm assuming they've put that 100,000 times 10 makes a million. They could have easily put the hieroglyph for he, which is the man sitting and his arms raised up, but they chose to do it that way. Next one is an R. This becomes a preposition, which is to or in. Usually in, you'd use the M, but for some reason they chose to use R. That's fine. That depends on how you want to translate it, but that's how they chose to do it. So the next word is kebeh. Now in the movie he said this is very strange, and it is very strange because this is a rare type of word for describing the sky. You could have just easily used the word pet, which is up here. Pet. And you could have written it out with a P and a T, and there you go. You would have had the word pet. But instead they chose the word kebeh, which is very unusual from the movie sense as well, which is very good that they describe that. It could have been just an older word, a more unusual word that was used. We don't know. So, kebeh, a rolling hill, a foot, or leg or a foot, twisted rope with a chick, which makes kebeh, which is right over here. And then kebehu, who is probably a weak vowel, probably a word from a much older time that was no longer used, but sometimes you see it with it, sometimes you see it without. So that's very well known for half vowels. They're missing sometimes in words. All right, so this is a jar, vase filled with water for purification, the water poured out of it. This is actually the word kebeh. So these 3 become complements. KBH, KBH makes this word, so you know how to read this. This is the word pet, which is sky, the actual word for sky, but we don't read it. We use this now as a determinative, and this is the rolling land mountain, a rolling mountain with its hills, and this is also not read. So you just say, you understand that this is the word sky for its entirety. So I just put that word pet so you know what it means, but you don't read it. So it's just kebeh. All right, the next word is pu. This is a demonstrative. This connects to this, so it's like saying the sky, this guy. So this is demonstrative adjective, so you would have this guy. So a million years in this sky. And then you have the god Ra, which is a mouth and an arm, which makes the word Re. And then the determinative for the god Ra, with the sun disk on his head and the cobra, so we know that this is Ra. Now, if you didn't have this here, this could be the word day. We wouldn't know, and we need this determinative to tell us that this is Ra. But sometimes you can read it in the text and kind of figure out that this means Ra, depending on the context. Next word is also preposition. This is M, which is for in. It could mean many different things, but in this case it's in, so Ra, in. Eaten. Eaten is an abstract word for the sun disk itself. This is a reed leaf, a bread loaf, and a wave of water. So eaten. So this is the word eaten itself. So it tells you these are complements, how to read it. But this is how it usually was written. And Akhenaten, the heretic king, he used this in his name because he began to try to worship a single god called the sun disk or Aten, or try to have a god in his own nome, his own city. So there you go, Eaton. So let's read that again. 1,000,000 years in the sky, in this sky. So 1,000,000 years in this sky. Ra in the sun disk. All right, this is part of the movie. There was a lot of mistakes. He said he had to correct it the first time, which is Daniel Jackson. So here's what he corrected. So he didn't add this here. He kind of kept these words together. So this is the word by or in. You can see here in. Then it could also be by or as. It depends on the context. An owl. Now you have the word hitam. Now, for some reason in the movie, they wrote it as himit, but it's actually the word hitam. So the T should have been here. They could have easily moved this up, put the T underneath to make the word hitam, but they chose to make it as himit. So very unusual as to why they did that. All right, so these are complements. HMT, placenta, owl, bread. And this is a seal. And what they did, this is the word hitam. So the complement, the triliteral word hitam. And here you have it as three complements which make this particular word. Now, this word is a determinative. It means rut. It's a gate, but they chose to put it as a determinative so you know that this is a doorway to something. So something sealed, something closed. Now, this N over here, because there's a noun and the N is put over here, this makes it a past tense. So this became hitam N, which means buried. Sealed. Not seal, but sealed. And the F, which means pronoun his sealed. So his sealed, by his sealed. So by his sealed. So it's a cobra for F. And then burial, which was a sarcophagus or tomb by accident, but it actually was just burial. Burial, since it has no past tense, is not buried, but burial, and is a rolling hill, which is a K, an R, an S. Now, this is a wooden harpoon. Bone harpoon. And the bone harpoon is the word kiss, which means you already have these two here. So K and S, which makes kiss. So it tells you how to read these two. That's a kiss. And then over here you have kiris, which is a box, which was put, for example, the canopic jars, or an actual tomb or burial where objects like the body was put in there, or the canopic jars. And then you have a determinative, which tells you this is a burial because there's a person here. If it wasn't here, it could have been considered a coffin, but in this case, it's considered the word burial because somebody's here and he's being buried. So these two complements make this word, and then the three of them make that word. So you know how to read this word. All right, continuing again, we have the pronoun his, so his burial. Now here we have an N, which is set up in a position where it's the word for, the wave of water. And then we have the word jet, which comes with this word ta. This is not pronounced. This is just a determinative. It would have been better to position it here, much like they should have done over here. They could have just positioned the jet, T, and then the land underneath, which would have made the proper word jet forever or all time. But for some reason in the movie, the person on the board decided to put it that way. It's unusual as to why they did it this way, but they did. Usually it would never have the 3 little grains of sand because you had the earth and the 3 grains of sand with it, which meant ta or land. But it would just been just the land by itself, and that would have been underneath. And then the R again, the same as we have over here, to or in. So to, so for all time. So for all time or forever. To, the R, eternity. Now, there was some debate about this. I saw this in the movie. This is the word nehehe. This is a type of bird from ancient Egypt. And these are, again, the twisted ropes, which are HH, so it tells you how to read it, nehehe. This entire word is actually seen as eternity. But sometimes people divide it by saying for time or for eternal time, because these two together make ehehu, and this means time. So you could choose to say eternity, or again for forever, for all time. You could do that. So this is, to me, would have been translated as forever to all time. But looking at it, I would think it's forever to eternity. That's how I would translate it. All right, so the final line we have here is Sabah. Don't worry about the Sab, I made a mistake there. So Sabah is interesting because the way they did it in the movie, generally the Sabah would be SB and then the star would be behind, because then you would have the two complements for SB and the Sabah. But in this particular case, they've divided it. I've seen this before in text where they did do that, but that's really a matter of space and how they want to align the hieroglyphs so they fit properly. So it might be the case. So generally this would be SB and then the star, but in this case it's S star and B. So you know how to read this as Sabah. Now this is again the word gate, which we had shown over here, or something sealed. So it here in this particular case, they put it as gate. It's the word rut again, we can see over here, but you don't pronounce it. It's just a determinative, tells you what this is. It's not a star, but it's sort of a gate. So there you go. The N, of course, the wave of water, the preposition for the word N, which means is the water. It's the word of. We've seen this before over here for the word for, but it could be the word of, depending on context. And the next word, we also have another Sabah, or Sabah. So Sabah here now is properly correctly written, which is SBA, the full three complements to tell you that this is the word Sabah, which is the star. And then you have the sun, hieroglyph, which the sun is considered a star. It was considered in ancient Egyptology, even in ancient Egypt, even though it was the god, but it was considered a star. So a determinative, which you don't pronounce, it's ray, much like the ray up here, without the sun rays. So you know this is ray. And then the oo, again, remember the three strokes makes plural. Now you have the three plurals over here. So oo. And oo now makes it stars. So from a star to stars. And then the final one is just the pronoun for the cobra, which is the horned cobra, which is his, which is the letter F. So what do we have here? His gate of the stars. So you would read it as his gate of the stars. So there's the full translation for the movie itself. You can read it again. Let's try it one more time. A million years in the sky, or a million years in this sky, Ra in the sun disk, by his sealed and his burial for ever or all time to eternity. His gate of the stars.